Okay, today we're going to be talking about feeding the 5,000. Yes, I know it's a miracle, but we're still talking about a miracle in the middle of our mess. And you know what? I bet all of us are familiar with this story about how Jesus fed the 5,000, but I bet we don't all realize what happened right before that. So look with me in Matthew 14 and Mark 6, and we see that Jesus had just heard this terrible news. Imagine, he just heard that his cousin, who he loved, John the Baptist, had just been beheaded. Wow, that's not just a mess, but it's an emotional mess. And imagine the grief and the pain and the loss that Jesus felt. Because yes, he is God, but he is also man. And this is his cousin. He would have definitely grown up with him. He would have had so many experiences. And now he hears that he's not just died, but he's been beheaded. Such a cruel thing. And in the midst of that, Jesus says to his disciples, okay, let's get away. So they're getting away, and all the people follow them. Because what? They've seen all these miracles. And so they follow this man who does miracles, Jesus. And so Jesus, having compassion on them, he stops and he teaches them. And it goes on hour after hour after hour. And you know what? I just want to say again that sometimes the greatest miracles are going to happen in the middle of your mess. Not just a miracle getting you out of your mess, but a miracle in the midst of your mess. Okay, and that's what we see happening here with Jesus feeding the 5,000. And then 5,000, that's 5,000 men. So just imagine plus wives, plus children. So it's probably 20,000, okay? One wife, 2 kids, could be even more. But anyway, it's a huge miracle. So tons of people, and now the day's getting over, and they're going to be hungry, and the disciples are like, this is going to be a mess. Because we're out in the middle of nowhere, there's no food. And so the disciples' solution is send them away. Send them away. Let them figure it out by themselves. Why do we have to have this? We were like trying to get away for some me time. Has that ever happened to you? You're already hurting, you're just in an emotional mess, and you're broken, and you want some alone time, and then boom, here comes a situation where God wants to use you. He wants you to be the miracle. That's what was happening. And Jesus said, you get them something to eat. Wow, you know what? God wants to use us, and he says when we're weak, he is strong, if we will surrender that to him. And you know what? So they had the 5 loaves and 2 fish. They had to surrender what was in their hands to Jesus. And you know what? When we do that, God can multiply even the little bit that we have to meet the need. And I'm going to tell you, breaking those fish was a messy job. First of all, I don't like fish, so they stink. But imagine you're breaking them all up, cooked, not cooked. Fish are smelly, and you're breaking fish, and they just never quit being broken. So you're breaking enough fish for 20,000 people. That's a lot of smelly fish breaking. It just is. But in the midst of that, you know what Jesus says? Order. Put them in groups of hundreds and 50s. In the middle of chaos, God always has a plan for order. He does. He can bring order in the messiest situation. So take your 5 loaves and 2 fish. Surrender them to him. Let him multiply that, and expect what? That 12 baskets extra blessing coming back, because you know what? You cannot outgive God. And especially when you give out of your weakness, your brokenness, your mess, he will always show up as El Shaddai, as more than enough. So going the second mile. You may find yourself in that place where you are broken. We talked about brokenness. You're broken, but God says, hey, I need to use you right now in someone else's life who's got a need, and they want a miracle, and you're my answer for that miracle. And you know what? I promise you, as you trust him, as you let him use you to be someone else's answer to prayer, he will never, never let you give more than he does. Expect that 12 baskets back, because our God is more than enough.